You are not different from your family by accident. That difference is the first sign that something was placed within you very early on, even before you could name it. From your earliest years, while everyone else was busy growing up, fitting in, learning how to be the same in order to be accepted, inside you there was already a different rhythm. Not loud, not showing off, but persistent. You could sit in the same room with your siblings, eat the same meal, hear the same story, and still feel as if you were standing on a deeper level of reality, not because you thought you were better than them, only because there were things within you that never quite fit into that familiar mold. You never needed anyone to tell you that you were different. You felt it clearly. It was in how ordinary conversations left you feeling exhausted, in how the things others longed for could not reach you, in how you noticed cracks in your family that no one else seemed to see. And you did not know why you were the one who felt the heaviest because of them. There were nights when you lay still, with no tears, no obvious tragedy, yet inside your chest lived an emptiness you could not name, as if your soul was waiting for something your environment could not provide. You once wondered if you were too sensitive, if you thought too much, if you were imagining a role that did not exist. But the older you grew, the more you realized an uncomfortable truth. You could not pretend to be like them for long, no matter how much you tried to stay quiet, to blend into the family crowd, to smile at the right moments and nod things away. Inside you, there was still a part that refused to sleep. It observed, it listened, it sensed the undercurrents before they surfaced, even when everything looked calm on the outside. There were days when you looked around and asked why you were the only one carrying this feeling, why you were the one thinking about meaning, about right and wrong, about something deeper than money, status, or surface-level stability. You never wanted to be special. In truth, there were moments when you wished you could be simpler like them, live more lightly, worry less. But every time you tried to turn away from the inner calling, it returned stronger, clearer, like a reminder that could not be silenced. You learned how to stay silent very early, not because you had nothing to say, but because you realized not everyone could hear. There were thoughts that, once spoken, only brought empty stares or discomfort, so you kept them. You carried them alone. And in that silence, you began to develop an inner life deeper than you ever realized. You observed people, observed your family, observed yourself. You learned to read the atmosphere, to read what was never said, to read pain hidden behind laughter. At times, you felt as if you were born earlier than your own time, as if your soul was older than your age. What excited others made you cautious. The rushed decisions others made caused you to hesitate, not because you were afraid, but because you saw the consequences before they happened. And that is what sometimes made you feel like a stranger in your own home. You were never taught that this feeling meant something. You were only taught how to adapt. But deep inside, there was a part of you that never accepted that you were born only to adapt. Something within you always leaned toward truth, even when that truth was hard to hear, hard to live. You did not seek attention. You sought authenticity. You did not crave to be seen. You craved to be true to what you felt was real. And then there were very small, very private moments when you were alone, when no one was watching, and a question rose inside you so clearly it could not be ignored. If I am not like them, then why am I here? That question did not come from pride. It came from a deeper pull, as if an invisible thread was drawing you toward a purpose you could not yet name, but could not deny. It is not accidental that you feel this way. There is a reason you see the world through different eyes. There is a reason you sense what others overlook. There is a reason you are often the first to notice the fractures, and also the last to give up when everything falls apart. You were not created to live on the surface. You were created with depth. and that depth requires a journey unlike anyone else's. Not everyone is born with the ability to feel early. Not everyone carries a heart that is both soft and strong like this. Some souls are created to live peacefully, and some souls are placed into this world to do heavier work, deeper work, quieter work. You belong to the second group, even if you never asked for it. There is a line that was written long ago, yet every time it echoes, it feels as if it is speaking directly about you. Psalm 139 says that God formed you in the womb. He saw you before you were fully formed. That means even the parts of you that your family does not understand, that society cannot name, are not mistakes. They were seen, they were known, and they were placed within you on purpose. You are not out of sync. You are the beginning of a new rhythm. But before you can understand what you were created to do, you must face this feeling of not belonging. Not run from it, not numb it, because the very place that makes you feel the most lost is where the first clues to your mission are hidden. And your story, even if no one has ever told it correctly, is still waiting to be named. There is a truth you have lived with for a very long time. Even though you rarely say it out loud, you were never chosen because you looked like everyone else. You were chosen because inside you there is something they do not carry, even if at times you yourself do not fully understand what it is. When you look back on your journey, you will see that God never chooses the way people choose. He does not look at who speaks more, who stands out more, who is more liked within the family. He looks into the deepest place, where no one else reaches. And there, he sees something that even you are only beginning to recognize. A heart that knows how to listen, a soul willing to carry what is difficult, an inner life that does not easily compromise with falsehood, even when the cost is loneliness. You once thought that if you were chosen, the path would surely be easier, but reality turned out to be the opposite. Your path has never been wide. It is narrow, winding, and often requires you to walk alone, not because you were left behind, but because if you walked in a crowd, you would be easily pulled off course. There are stretches where if you do not slow down, if you do not step away from the familiar noise, you will not hear what you need to hear. You may have blamed yourself for not fitting in as well as others, but the truth is your soul was not designed to live on the surface. You always sensed something was off when people laughed and talked without seeing the cracks behind it. You are not easily joyful, but you are not easily indifferent either. You carry a very natural seriousness about life, not because you are dark, but because you understand that there are things which, if ignored, leave consequences for generations. You were not chosen because you were strong from the beginning. In fact, there were times when you were very tired of feeling, of thinking, of staying awake while others slept within what was familiar. But it was in those moments that you were being shaped. Each time you were tested. It was not to see if you could endure, but to see if you were willing to keep your heart soft. Because your true strength does not lie in enduring. It lies in not becoming hardened. You may not be the one who receives the most praise in your family. At times you may even be seen as distant, hard to understand, or too serious. But God does not choose based on other people's comfort. He chooses based on purpose, and purpose is often placed on the shoulders of those who do not seek attention, those willing to stand at the edge if it helps them see more clearly. There is something very few people tell you when God sets his eyes on someone. He also places a responsibility upon them. This responsibility does not come in the form of glory, but in the form of weight. You feel heavy not because you are weak, but because you are carrying more. You sense fractures before others, because you have been given the ability to see beyond the present. You feel sadness before others realize there is a reason to be sad, and you wrestle long before things become clear to the crowd. You were not chosen because you are perfect. You were chosen because when faced with what is hard, you do not turn away. Even when you do not know what to do, you stay. Even when you are confused, you listen. Even when you are afraid, you do not pretend that everything is fine. That honesty is rare, and that is what makes you different. There is a line in this Bible that was written not to decorate a story, but to explain this very kind of choosing. God does not look at what people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. Those words are not there to comfort you when you are overlooked. They explain why you are in this position, why you do not need to compete, why you do not need to prove yourself. What has been seen in the hidden place does not need to be displayed. You may have thought that you were forgotten, but in truth, you were preserved. Preserved from influences that would dull your soul. Preserved from patterns that would make you forget who you are. Preserved from living a life that is comfortable but empty. Your path is painful not because it is wrong, but because it is real. And when you look back at all the times you felt not enough, not fitting, not chosen in the eyes of people, remember this: some choices do not happen in front of a crowd. They happen in silence. They happen when no one else is paying attention. They happen in the moments you feel most invisible. You do not walk this path to become more than others. You walk this path to become who you were created to be. And before you can fully understand your purpose, you must accept this truth: being chosen does not protect you from pain. It only ensures that the pain is not meaningless. You are walking a journey that very few people in your family have been called to walk, not because they are lesser, but because their role is different. Some people are born to maintain, and some are born to redirect. You carry that ability to redirect within you, even if you never asked for it. And the sooner you stop comparing your path to theirs, the sooner you will understand why God looked toward you from the very beginning. There is something that slowly becomes clear when you look back on the years that have passed. Isolation did not come after you were different. It walked alongside you from the very beginning. You were not suddenly pushed to the edge. You drifted there gradually, slowly, almost naturally, as if your soul already knew that to protect what you carry, you could not remain in the center for too long. You may have wondered why you are often the one who leaves gatherings earlier than others. Why, when the space grows loud, you begin to feel drained. Why you need silences that others cannot tolerate. Not because you dislike people, on the contrary, you feel them too deeply. You absorb more than what is spoken. You hear what has not yet been said. And if you stay too long, you carry things that were never yours to hold. There are seasons in life when you feel as if you are living on the margins of your own family, still there, still fulfilling your role, yet inside there is a distance that cannot be closed. You see what they do not see. You feel the cracks they deny. You cannot ignore what is quietly repeating from one generation to the next. And that very awareness makes you different, even though you never asked for it. You once thought that if you tried harder, stayed quieter, became less difficult, everything would feel easier. But you soon realized a hard truth. The more you try to dissolve, the more clarity you lose inside. And every time you ignore your intuition, you pay with emptiness. Not because you did something terribly wrong, but because you turned away from a small but very real voice calling you back to yourself. There was a sentence that surfaced in you during moments like that. Not loud, not demanding, simply present. Psalm 25:14 says that the Lord reveals his covenant to those who fear him. You did not need to fully understand it right away. You only sensed that some things are not given to the crowd. Some truths open only in stillness. And some people are led into that stillness not to be punished, but to be trusted. You begin to realize that this isolation does not feel like abandonment. It feels like a space being protected, a space where you are not distorted by expectations, comparisons, or familiar noise. There you face yourself more clearly. Questions you once avoided begin to appear, not to frighten you, but to mature you. You learn how to sit with uncertainty. Learn how not to demand answers immediately. Learn to trust that not everything valuable needs to be explained. There are times when you feel as if you are moving backward compared to those around you. They move fast, stable, certain. You move slowly, in circles, with many pauses. But what you see that they do not is this: your path is not measured by speed, but by depth. And depth always takes time. There is no shortcut through inner formation. You also begin to understand that not everyone needs to understand you. Some connections in your life are built on habit, not resonance. When you change, when you no longer respond the way you used to, discomfort appears, not because you are wrong, but because you are no longer playing the old role. And leaving a familiar role always confuses others. If you are hearing these words and feel as if someone is finally saying what you have never spoken out loud, you do not need to explain or justify anything. Simply acknowledge within yourself that you are not alone in this experience. Others are walking this narrow path as well, learning how to stay with their truth. And if you wish, you may leave a small sign, a quiet acknowledgement that you are here, listening, recognizing yourself in this story, not to prove anything, but to mark a moment of awakening. Some journeys do not need many companions. They require steady presence. And if you choose to stay, to keep listening, to remain open, you will find that stories like this still have much for you, not to make you more special, but to help you understand more clearly what you carry. The isolation you experience is not a wall, it is a threshold. It forces you to slow down long enough to hear what you will never hear in a crowd. It teaches you to distinguish between loneliness and silence, between being abandoned and being set apart. And when you begin to tell the difference, pain slowly turns into clarity. You do not need to rush out of this quiet space. It is not where you are stuck. It is where you are being shaped. There are parts of you that can only mature when they are not observed, not compared, not pushed to become like someone else. And in the days that seem as if nothing is happening, the deepest foundation is being laid. You may not yet see the results. You may not yet understand why you must walk this road. But one thing is certain: you were not placed here by accident. Something is being prepared quietly, without display, but with great precision. And this silence is not emptiness. It is an invitation. If you are patient enough to stay with it, you will soon understand why you were not created to blend in, and why your difference, even when it once made you doubt yourself, is the very door leading you towards something greater. There came a time, though it is unclear when it began, when you realized that your difference could no longer be hidden. Even if you did not speak it out loud, even if you did not try to prove anything, your presence still created a sense of unfamiliarity within familiar spaces, not because you caused disruption, but because you no longer resonated with the same rhythm as what had become routine in your family. You see patterns that others call normal, phrases passed down from one generation to the next without anyone questioning them. Familiar reactions to conflict, to pain, to failure. You do not see these as unchangeable truths. You see them as traces, and the fact that you see them is what makes you uncomfortable to others, even though you never intended to hurt anyone. You begin to understand that some roles are never assigned with words. No one in your family ever told you that you had to carry this. No one officially placed that responsibility on your shoulders. Yet somehow, you are always the one who notices first, feels first, and quietly holds it within yourself. When tension forms, you sense it early. When danger approaches, you feel it before it appears. When things are about to break, you have already been carrying the pressure for a long time. You did not learn this from books. You learned it from living among what was never spoken. You learned it from silent meals, from avoided glances, from interrupted stories. And through that process, you developed a very particular ability, the ability to read what lies beneath words. Not to control, but to understand. Not to judge, but to protect. You may have thought that if you were a little more like them, everything would be peaceful. If you smiled more, spoke less, pretended not to notice, maybe things would pass more easily. But each time you tried, something inside you resisted. Not loudly, not forcefully, just a quiet sense that something was wrong. Wrong to stay silent in the face of what was not right. Wrong to turn away from what you saw too clearly. And you slowly understood that peace built on denying truth never lasts. There were moments when you wondered why you were the one who saw first. Why you were the one carrying this feeling while others seemed to live more lightly. But the answer is not that you are better than them. It is that your role is different. Some people are born to maintain the existing order, and some are placed within that order to see what must change, even when that change is not welcomed. You also begin to realize that not every difference needs to be explained. Some things, the more you explain, the more they are misunderstood. You may have tried to speak your thoughts, hoping to be understood, but what you received was not always listening. Sometimes it was defensiveness, sometimes it was mockery, and sometimes it was a silence heavier than rejection. From this, you learned discernment. Not everyone needs to know what you see. Not everyone is ready to hear. Your maturity does not come from being recognized. It comes from remaining honest within yourself even when no one affirms you. You learn to stand firmly in what you know is right without needing to win an argument. You learn to step back when necessary, not out of weakness, but because you understand that not every battle must be fought in order to keep your soul intact. Gradually, you realize that your difference is not a flaw to be fixed. It is a signal, a marker showing that you were not placed in this family merely to repeat what already exists. You did not come to make everything more comfortable for everyone. You came to look directly at what has not been healed, even when that makes you uncomfortable in the eyes of others. You may not yet have a name for your role, but you feel it through every reaction, every silence, every moment you choose not to turn away from the truth. And even if you cannot yet see the whole picture, you begin to understand something essential. If you do not see it, perhaps no one will. If you do not feel it, perhaps no one will. And if you do not stand firm in this place, what needs to change will remain buried in silence. Your difference is not a burden you must discard. It is a sign that you are standing at the boundary between what is old and what has not yet formed. And that boundary has never been a comfortable place, but it is always where real transformation begins. You do not need to rush to understand all of this. You only need to know that the fact you see, feel, and cannot turn away is not a coincidence. There is a reason you stand where you do, within your own family, within your closest relationships, and that reason will slowly reveal itself, layer by layer, as you continue to walk forward without betraying what you know to be true. There is a burden you have carried for a long time without naming it. It does not rest on your shoulders. It does not show on your face, but it is always present in moments when you seem to be resting. Even when everything around you is calm, inside you there is a quiet alertness. Not tense, but awake. Not chaotic, but never fully relaxed. You have lived in this state for so long that sometimes you forget not everyone lives this way. You are the one who senses shifts in the atmosphere before they turn into words or actions. When an argument has not yet erupted, you already see it forming. When a wrong decision is about to be made, you already feel the misalignment. When something is off, even without clear evidence, your body reacts first, not because you are suspicious, but because you were made to notice early. You were never taught how to carry this burden. No one in your family told you that you would be the one to hold the balance. No one officially assigned you this role, yet somehow, you are always the one in the middle, absorbing, regulating, calming. When others lose control, you stay steady. When others blame, you stay silent. When others walk away, you remain. Not because you are not tired, but because you cannot leave without leaving a void behind. There are nights when you are awake and you do not know why you cannot sleep. There is no specific fear, no clear problem, just a quiet urge to pray, to reflect, to stay alert. You may have wondered if you were overreacting, but as you grow, you realize that this urge does not come from anxiety. It comes from responsibility, a responsibility unnamed, yet impossible to ignore. You carry the role of a watchman, even though no one appointed you. You stand on the wall while others sleep. You do not do this to be seen. You do it because if you let go, you know something will slip out of balance, not immediately, but slowly. And you do not want to be the one who looks back and says you saw it coming and still turned away. There are moments when you wish you could live more lightly. You wish you did not think so far ahead, so deeply, so much. You wish you could laugh at shallow things without feeling the weight underneath. But every time you try, something in you does not allow it. Not because you do not want ease, but because your soul has been placed in a different position, a position that requires awareness more than comfort. You begin to understand that this burden was not something you chose. It came with what you were entrusted with. You were allowed to see more, so you carry more. You were allowed to feel deeper, so you must process more. And even if no one says it, even if no one acknowledges it, your presence in your family has always served to keep things from drifting too far. There was a sentence that surfaced during moments when you felt overwhelmed. Brief but steady, the Lord will fight for you, and you need only to be still. Those words did not come to tell you to avoid responsibility. They came to remind you that you are not meant to carry everything by your own strength. There are battles that do not require you to speak loudly, explain endlessly, or prove yourself. Your task is to stand in the right place, keep your heart upright, and not abandon the awareness entrusted to you. You were not created to save everyone through action. Your role is deeper than that. You hold space. You hold boundaries. You keep harm from spreading further than it needs to. There are victories that are never recognized, because when you do your role well, no one knows a danger was stopped very early, and you must learn to accept that without bitterness. At times you feel that you give more than you receive. You listen, but are rarely asked about yourself. You pray, but are seldom protected. You carry weight, but few notice its heaviness. And if you are not careful, this exhaustion can turn into resentment, not toward others, but toward your own role. Yet deep inside, you know that if you abandon it, you would lose a very important part of yourself. This burden did not come to exhaust you. It came to teach you how to rely on something greater than yourself. You were not called to be a hero. You were called to be faithful. Faithful in what no one sees. Faithful when no one understands. Faithful even when results do not come the way you expect. And it is within that faithfulness that your true strength is formed. You do not need to tell your family what you are doing in silence. You do not need to explain why you pray more, why you are more careful, why you cannot live superficially. Some things are only understood later, when the outcome has appeared, and some things may never be fully understood. But that does not make your role any less valuable. You do not carry this burden in vain. Each time you choose not to react out of old patterns, Each time you choose silence instead of adding fuel to the fire, each time you choose prayer instead of despair, you are preventing something from repeating again. You are standing in a very important place, even if it is never named. And if there are moments when you feel still while others move forward, remember that some positions are not measured by motion, but by stability. You were placed here not to run, but to hold, not to display, but to protect, not to be above others, but to keep what has wounded generations from traveling any farther. This burden may tire you, but it also steadies you. And that steadiness will become the foundation for greater things waiting ahead, even if you cannot yet see them clearly. There are wounds within you that did not come from a single event, but from repetition. The times you were misunderstood without being given space to explain. The times you needed protection but became the one who protected others. The moments when you were still very young, yet had to learn how to stand on your own, because you sensed that if you fell, no one else would hold that position for you. You did not call it trauma when it was happening. You simply called it life. You told yourself that everyone has difficulties. Everyone has to grow up. But deep inside, a part of you grew up too early, not because you wanted to, but because circumstances demanded it. You learned to observe instead of resist, to endure instead of express, to keep your heart steady while everything around you felt uncertain. There are pains you have never fully told, not because they were dramatic, but because they were quiet. No one hit you, no one left you on the street, but you were often overlooked in moments when you needed to be heard. You were often the one who understood first, gave way first, endured first. And if you are not careful, wounds like these can teach you to believe that your presence only has value when you do not inconvenience anyone. You once wondered why these things happened to you, why you were not allowed to live more lightly, more freely, why from so early on you had to learn to sort through emotions, read the atmosphere, keep yourself from spilling over. What you could not see then was this: some souls, if not refined early, cannot carry what they are entrusted with later. Not everyone is placed in the fire, and not every fire comes to destroy. There were times when you felt yourself cracking, not shattering, but splitting quietly. You still went to work, still lived your routine, still smiled when needed, but inside, exhaustion was accumulating. You thought that if you were just a little stronger, you would not feel this way. But the truth is this: you have already been far stronger than you realize. The problem was never that you were weak. The problem was that you had to be strong in far too many moments when you should have been supported. You begin to see that these wounds did not come to define you as a victim. They came to teach you compassion. A person who has never known deep pain struggles to stay with the pain of others without running away. A person who has never been misunderstood struggles to remain gentle when misjudged. And you, though you did not choose this path, learned how to stand firm without hardening your heart. There is a promise written for souls like yours, those who walked through fire and did not quit. After you have suffered a little while, God of all grace himself will restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. That promise does not say you will not hurt. It says pain does not have the final word. It says what is wearing you down today is not the end, but part of a forming process. You were not wounded because you were inadequate. You were wounded because you stood where impact was greatest. You stood between emotional currents, between unhealed places, between conflicting expectations. While others avoided, you stayed. While others denied, you faced it. That leaves marks, but it also creates depth. And depth is not something everyone can carry. There are days when you feel you have given too much. You wonder if it is worth it. You wonder if loyalty to this role has cost you simple joys. In those moments, you must remember something vital. You were never asked to sacrifice your soul. What you went through was not meant to erase you, but to teach you boundaries, to teach you how to rely on a strength that does not come from personal effort alone. You are not meant to carry everything by yourself. You are not the source of salvation. You are simply someone placed in a position of readiness. And there is a great difference between those two things. When you try to save everyone, you burn out. When you stand where you are meant to stand, you become a channel for something far greater than you. That does not require perfection. It only requires honesty. Your wounds did not make you weaker. They made you aware. You realize you cannot keep living by forcing yourself to carry everything as before. You begin to understand that healing is not forgetting, but learning how to carry memory without letting it control you. You no longer react from old instincts. You pause, you observe, you choose response over reflex, and that is a sign of deep maturity. You also begin to see clearly that not all pain needs explanation. Some things only need acknowledgement. You allow yourself to admit that you were tired, that there were times you were deeply lonely, that there were seasons when you had to pull yourself up without anyone knowing. In that acknowledgement, there is real relief. You no longer have to prove that you are fine. What once hurt you does not disappear overnight, but it no longer defines your direction. You begin to feel a new steadiness, not because everything is okay, but because you know you can stand even when things are not. That is a quiet strength, not loud or dramatic, but very difficult to shake. You are stepping out of the role of one who only endures, and into the role of one who knows where they stand. Your wounds are no longer where you are trapped. They become a map. They show you where you have been, how you survived, and why you cannot return to the old way of living. And when you look back, you will see that the very things you once thought were breaking you have been forming a strong foundation, a foundation of steadiness, compassion, and the ability to stay with truth without running away. You were not destroyed by what you lived through. You are being shaped by it. At some point, you begin to realize an unavoidable truth. Your life does not revolve only around you. What you are carrying, what you are fighting, and what you are trying to keep from falling apart does not stop at the personal level. It touches something larger, deeper, stretching across generations. You are not living only for the present. You are standing at a crossing point where the past and the future meet. You look back at your family and see familiar patterns, repeated reactions, pain passed from one person to another without ever being named. There are things that happened long ago, even before you were born, yet their echoes still live in the way people love, get angry, fall silent, and walk away. And you, without being taught, see them more clearly than anyone else. You do not see them to judge. You see them because you cannot help but see. There are chains of behavior that, if no one stops them, will continue repeating like a closed circle. There are wounds that, if no one faces them, will only change form, not disappear. And somehow, you understand that if there is not one person awake enough to stand still and say, "This is where it stops," everything will keep moving along the old momentum. You were not chosen because you are better. You were chosen because you are willing to face what is there, willing to look directly at what others avoid, willing to endure being misunderstood in exchange for truth, willing to accept that ending a cycle of pain is never comfortable. It requires you to go against habit. It requires you to say no when others expect yes. And it requires you to remain steady even when you are the only one doing so. There are moments when this pressure feels too heavy. You ask yourself why it has to be you. Why not someone stronger, harder, less emotional? But slowly you come to understand this. Your softness is exactly what makes the difference. A hardened person can cut things off. A soft but steady person can heal. And healing requires more than strength. It requires the courage not to become like the things that wounded you. You begin to see that every small choice you make carries weight. When you choose not to respond with anger, you interrupt a familiar reaction. When you choose to speak truth instead of staying silent to keep the peace, you open a different path. When you choose to forgive without denying the pain, you are doing what many generations before you were not safe enough to do. These choices may not be applauded, but they create new turns where those who come after you will walk more lightly. You do not need to convince anyone that you are doing the right thing. Those trapped in old cycles often resist when someone chooses a different way, not because you are wrong, but because your difference forces them to face what they are not ready to see. You may be called difficult, cold, distant, but you know exactly what you are doing. You are keeping something from repeating. At times you feel like someone standing alone in an open field, facing winds coming from every direction. Behind you is a heavy history. Ahead of you is a future without clear shape. And right there you stand, not perfect, not certain, but not turning away. That moment defines your role, not by a title, but by presence. You begin to understand that legacy is not what you leave behind after you are gone. Legacy is what you dare to stop while you are still here. It is what you choose not to pass on, the habits you break, the words you refuse to repeat, the silences you no longer maintain. There are victories that cannot be measured by achievements, but by the things that no longer happen. You also realize that you cannot do this by your own strength. There are days when you are so tired you want to let go. But it is in those days that you learn to rely on a source not rooted in personal willpower. You learn to stand not because you never waver, but because you know you are not standing alone. And that understanding makes you humbler, not proud. You were not chosen to carry all the consequences of the past. You were chosen to place a boundary. That boundary is not a cold cutoff. It is a clear distinction between what can continue and what must stop. And each time you hold that boundary, even at the cost of loneliness or misunderstanding, you are creating a safer space for those who come after you. You may never see the full result of what you are doing. You may never hear thank you, but there will be children who grow up in a different environment. There will be relationships that feel lighter. There will be decisions no longer driven by old fear. And even if no one says it, those things carry your imprint. You are not the one who started everything, but you may be the one who ends a cycle. And sometimes, that is the heaviest role and also the most necessary. You were not created to live easily. You were created to live with meaning in a way that is very quiet, but very real. If you are listening to this and feel a deep sense of confirmation, know that it is not imagination. It comes from your soul, recognizing its place in a larger picture. And as you continue to walk forward, slowly, sometimes alone, you are laying a foundation for something you may never fully see, but will be felt across generations. There comes a moment on this journey, not loud, not dramatic, but very clear, when you begin to realize that everything in your life is no longer fragmented. What once confused you, the turns that seemed like mistakes, the silences that lasted too long, suddenly fall into their places. Not because every question has been answered, but because your soul begins to see a deeper order at work. That is when a mark is activated, not through ritual, not through loud declarations, but through recognition. You begin to feel as if you are stepping into a new level of understanding, where you no longer only react to life, but begin to read its rhythm. Some things that once frightened you no longer hold the same power. Some things that once made you doubt yourself now become evidence that you have been guided in the right direction. That mark carries a number, not for you to worship, but for you to remember. 777, the number of full awakening, not partial awakening, not halfway awareness, but the moment the soul remembers why it was born. 777 does not say that you have arrived. It says that your eyes have opened. And once your eyes are open, you cannot return to pretending you never saw. You realize that the times you were separated from the crowd were not punishment, they were preparation. The times you were slowed down were not because you were lacking, they were because you were being tuned to the right frequency. Some souls, if they move too fast, lose themselves. And you are someone who was held back long enough to not lose what is essential. 777 carries a very clear meaning alignment between what you feel, what you believe, and how you live. Before, these three may have been out of sync. You believed one thing, lived another, and felt something else entirely. That misalignment created exhaustion, but when this mark is activated, you begin to live more slowly, but more truthfully. Less effort to impress, but more clarity. Less need to prove, but more steadiness. You no longer seek validation from places that cannot understand you. You also no longer feel angry about being misunderstood, not because you have become cold, but because you have learned to distinguish where explanation is needed and where presence is enough. You begin to respect your own energy. You no longer allow every conversation, every expectation, every judgment to pull you away from your inner center. There are very ordinary, very small moments when you feel this mark working most clearly. When you choose silence instead of reaction. When you leave a space that drains you without justification. When you say no to what is familiar in order to say yes to what is right. These choices do not make noise, but they create real movement. You also begin to realize that not everyone will walk with you into this level, and it no longer hurts the way it once did. You understand that everyone awakens at a different time, and some may never choose to go deeper. That does not make them lesser. It simply confirms that your journey cannot be measured by how many walk beside you. A new peace begins to appear, not because everything is settled, but because you have stopped resisting who you are being called to become. You no longer have to shrink yourself to fit old spaces. You no longer have to soften truth to make others comfortable. You begin to allow yourself to stand whole, even if that means no longer being understood in the old way. 777 is also a reminder that you are being guided, even when the road ahead has no clear shape. Not every step is lit, but the direction is no longer unclear. You learn to trust very small nudges, very subtle sensations. You do not need loud proof. You need inner agreement. And when that agreement appears, you know you are moving in the right direction. If you are listening to this and feel this number resonate within you in a very personal way, you do not need to understand it by anyone else's framework. Each person resonates with different marks along their journey. But if 777 touches you, if it causes you to pause and look back at the road you have walked, you can remember this moment. You can share the number you feel most connected to, not to prove anything, but to mark a point of awakening in your own journey. You do not need to rush into action after this awakening. Not everything that is seen needs to be acted on immediately. Some awareness needs to be held in silence, lived with, allowed to take root. You are entering a phase where haste would blur wisdom, and you are mature enough to distinguish between true calling and restlessness. There may be days when you doubt yourself. That does not erase this mark. Awakening does not remove confusion completely. It simply ensures that you will no longer be entirely lost. Even when you hesitate, there is a part of you that knows the way back. Even when you are tired, there is an inner center that is no longer easily shaken. You were not given this mark to rise above others. You were given it to become more honest with yourself. And that honesty will change how you walk, how you speak, how you love, and how you hold boundaries. Not in a single day, but little by little, with great steadiness. You are entering a stage where your soul no longer wants to live two lives, one for the world to see and one for yourself to endure. You want to live a unified life. And 777 is the confirmation that this desire is not an illusion. It is an invitation into wholeness. The road ahead is still long, but you are no longer walking in complete darkness. There is enough light to take the next step, and sometimes that is all you need. When you have walked far enough on this path, one thing begins to change very clearly: the way you define reward. Before, you may have believed that if you endured enough, tolerated enough, carried enough, there would one day be a moment when everything was repaid in a way everyone could see. But the more you mature, the more you understand that the reward of this journey is never loud recognition. It arrives quietly, but deep and lasting. The first reward that comes to you is not money and not status. It is peace. Not the kind of peace that depends on whether people are pleased with you or not. Not a fragile calm that exists only when there is no conflict, but an inner steadiness, strong enough for you to remain grounded even when everything around you is still shifting. You begin to sleep better, not because life is easier, but because you no longer have to betray your intuition in order to be accepted. Along with peace, clarity appears. You no longer doubt every feeling the way you once did. You can tell the difference between old fear and true guidance. You no longer rush into every argument to prove that you are right. You choose your battles. You choose your spaces. You choose your people. And that selectiveness does not make your world smaller. It makes you focused. You do not need to know everything. You only need to know where you are standing. There is a line that has echoed many times in your life, but only at this stage does it truly sink in. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you. That promise does not say you will receive everything you want. It says that when your inner order is bound right, the things you truly need will not be missing. And you begin to see this happening, not in the way you once imagined, but at the right time. With clarity, grace begins to unfold, not the kind of grace that makes others marvel, but doors that open at the right moment, meetings that are not accidental, opportunities that arrive when you are mature enough not to lose yourself in them. You no longer have to push or force your way forward. You move slowly, but each step carries weight, and you realize that what comes through force rarely stays for long. Then comes authority. Not authority to control others, but authority to hold space. When you are present, the atmosphere shifts, not because you speak more, but because you no longer speak from insecurity. When you pray, you no longer plead the way you once did. You stand in the position of someone who knows who they are speaking to. This authority is not given in a single moment. It is formed through years of choosing obedience when no one saw, choosing faithfulness when no one praised. You also begin to understand that true legacy is not what you own, but what you leave behind in the way others get to live more lightly because you stood firm. Some changes in your family do not happen immediately, but you see them quietly. Reactions are no longer as sharp as before. Stories are no longer completely buried. Children grow up carrying less weight. You do not need anyone to say it out loud to know that something has shifted. This reward does not make you proud. It makes you more humble, because you know you did not create it by yourself. You were simply someone who did not quit halfway. You did not turn away when the road narrowed. You did not choose the easy path just to feel less tired. And that endurance opened doors that surface effort could never unlock. You also realize that this reward comes with new responsibility. When you see more clearly, you cannot pretend you do not see. When you live more truthfully, you cannot return to the old way of living. but this no longer frightens you. You are used to walking without a complete map. You have learned to trust the light that is given just enough for today. There are moments when you look back and are surprised by how far you have come, not because of achievements, but because you have kept your heart soft. You did not become bitter. You did not close yourself off. You learned how to love without losing your boundaries. You learned how to give without emptying yourself. These are quiet victories, but they are very real. You do not need to display what you have survived. Those who need to know will recognize it, and those who do not recognize it no longer trouble you the way they once did. You do not live to be seen. You live to be true, and that truth brings a deep freedom, a freedom that does not depend on circumstances. Your reward does not arrive in a single day. It comes gradually, layer upon layer, like a foundation built strong over time. And when you stand on that foundation, you are no longer afraid that one opposing wind will cause you to collapse. You know what you are standing on. You did not walk this path to receive reward in the ordinary sense, but you are receiving something far more valuable, a life that is no longer divided, a soul that no longer has to run from itself, and a direction clear enough that you no longer feel lost, even though much ahead is still unknown. By this point, you are no longer standing before the question of who you are. That question has been answered by the way you live, by the choices you have repeated in silence over many years. What remains is not awareness, but obedience. Not blind obedience, but mature obedience, where you walk with full alertness, without illusion, without running away. There is a very clear boundary you have crossed. Even though no one witnessed it, you can no longer return to living as before, not because you despise the old path, but because you have seen too clearly to pretend you never did. There are doors that once opened cannot be closed, not because you were forced, but because your soul chose truth over convenience. There is a line that was written very plainly, leaving little room for ambiguity. No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. Those words are not meant to pressure you. They simply describe the reality of this journey. Once you choose to walk in the light you have received, returning to familiar darkness no longer brings peace, not because the darkness changed, but because you did. You begin to understand that obedience is not about doing great things to be seen. It lives in very small but very consistent choices. In how you begin your day, not allowing your mind to be pulled into chaos from the first moment. In how you keep space for stillness, even 10 minutes, to realign yourself before stepping into the world. In how you no longer react impulsively, but pause long enough to choose what is right, even when it is not welcomed. You also learned an important lesson. Not everyone is meant to walk with you. This does not mean you turn away from love. It means you stop allowing relationships that drain you with no intention of growing. You no longer explain why you need space. You no longer apologize for protecting your energy. You understand that if you collapse, no one else can stand in the position you are holding. There are relationships you still love, but no longer keep close. There are people you still pray for, but no longer share every part of your life with. This does not make you cold. It makes you honest. You learn to distinguish between love and blind sacrifice. You learn that saying no is sometimes the only way to keep what has been entrusted to you from being worn away. You also stop trying to explain your calling to those who do not have ears to hear. Not because you look down on them, but because you understand that truth does not need to be defended with words. It is defended by life. Your fruit will speak for you. Your endurance will speak for you. The way you stand firm without becoming bitter will speak for you. There are days when you are still tired. There are moments when you still feel lonely. Obedience does not erase those feelings completely, but it gives you a place to stand when they arise. You no longer panic when you feel weak. You no longer assume that exhaustion means you are on the wrong path. You understand that even the called need rest, need restoration, need to be reminded that strength does not come from themselves. You no longer wait for another big sign to begin living rightly. You also no longer wait for permission to walk forward. You understand that the confirmation you needed most came long ago. Through each time you chose honesty when no one knew. Through each time you did not betray what you knew was right, even when it left you alone. You are not waiting for some future day. You are living fully in today. You also realize that the most ordinary things are where holiness is formed. How you treat your family, how you work when no one is watching, how you speak about others when they are not present. These moments do not take the stage, but they are where legacy is built. You do not need a dramatic life. You need a consistent one. When you look back over your entire journey, from the early sense of not belonging, through years of isolation, unseen burdens, quiet wounds, into awakening and clarity, you begin to see a single red thread running through it all. You did not quit, not perfect, not strong in the way the world celebrates, but faithful enough not to turn away from what you were given. You were not chosen to be the center of the story. You were chosen to keep the story from drifting off course. You were not chosen to be understood. You were chosen to stand firm, and that firmness created space for new things to emerge, for future generations to breathe easier, live more truthfully, and not carry the burdens you chose to stop. Not everyone will recognize what you have done. Not everyone will name your role, but that no longer matters the way it once did. You know what you have done, and deeper than that, you know why you did it. That knowing brings a very deep peace. A peace that does not come from everything being resolved, but from being in the right place. The road ahead still remains. There will be hard choices. There will be moments when you must stand alone, but you are no longer walking in confusion. You walk with purpose, not loudly, not for display, but clearly. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are not waiting for another time. You have already risen through the way you live each day. And what you carry is no longer just potential. It is purpose being lived out, step by step, very real.
Grateful that you chose to spend these moments in the light of this story. If it touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so the next whisper of light may find its way back to you.